Hey folks, Schneider here. Uh, John Puppet Man asks, what was it like having Dukes on? How did I feel about having Dukes on the same night as Dallas? Well, I tell you, when Dukes of Hazzard first started, we were a mid-season replacement in 1978. So Dallas had already been running for a little while. They were trying it at 9 o'clock. And word was they just didn't have a lead-in that worked really well. Now, in those days, we had three networks: ABC, CBS, and NBC. And scheduling and programming was very important because the notion was that you didn't want people just to watch a show, you wanted people to watch a block of shows. So you would program an evening so that kids would watch something, the family and the kids would watch something, the kids would go to bed, and then the parents would watch something else. That was kind of roughly how it was scheduled out. So Dallas was not doing very well. Because they didn't have that show in the middle that the whole family wanted to sit down and watch. So when Dukes was ordered, they ordered 5. They specifically were going to put it at 8 o'clock on Friday. And then there was another show. I don't know if it was the Hulk that was on. Not sure if it was Dukes, the Hulk, and then Dallas at first. May have been. You can check one of those great. I've got one of those old great TV guides in my at Miss Shirley's. I'll check. But they figured out Dukes did great at 8 o'clock. I'm sorry. Look, I got this all wrong. It was the Hulk, Dukes at 9 o'clock. And then Dallas. Okay. So that worked okay. Dukes was a top 20 show right out of the bat. First episode, January 1979. But then they changed it. Some people ask, why were the first couple of shows so much different than the rest of the shows? Well, the first shows were on at 9 o'clock, or they were filmed to be on at 9 o'clock, which is a little different as far as standards and practices go. They used to have standards and practices, which was a quality and content control arm of every network. You could do things at 9 o'clock that you couldn't do at 8 o'clock. You could do things at 10 o'clock that you couldn't do at 9 o'clock. So they grew the evening. Well, after the first couple of airings of Dukes, they decided to change it to 8 o'clock on Friday night. That's when it got kind of a little bit more fun and a little, I don't want to say cartoonish, because I never thought Dukes was really cartoonish, although it was a little Roadrunner, right? Wile E. Coyote being Roscoe. But once they moved Dukes of Hazzard to 8 o'clock, I believe it was Dukes, Dallas, and then Falcon Crest, whatever the other show was that was on CBS. They never lost a Friday night block. Never. So all 3 hours, even when it was the Hulk, Dukes, and Dallas, never lost a Friday night. So that meant that people for 3 hours, they turned on CBS and they kept it on CBS for 3 hours, which is a great thing to be able to tell those who are buying advertising on your channel. Now, in those days when there were 3 networks, we averaged over our 7 years a 28 share, which roughly equates to 28 million people, 28 million viewers a week watched the Dukes of Hazzard on average. Sometimes more, sometimes a little less. But 28 million people a week watched the Dukes of Hazzard. So I loved being part of that 3-show Goliath, because nobody ever beat it. Nobody ever beat our 3-hour Friday nights. So Dukes and the Hulk and Dallas and later Falcon Crest. I think it was Falcon Crest. It might have been Knots Landing. I don't remember actually which was the late night. But now that you know what you know, think about it. The Hulk, wonderful show for everybody to watch. Later, Dukes, wonderful show for everybody to watch. Then Dallas, a show that you didn't necessarily want your kids to watch. But the older ones, 16, 17, could watch it with you. And then whatever the 10 o'clock show was, something the kids did not watch back in those days. Of course, now kids watch everything right out of the box, which I think is a slap, really, a robbing of innocence. Innocence is something that we all wind up losing eventually anyway. Why not hold on to it or help your children hold on to it as long as you can? That's just me. So that's my thoughts about being on the same night, the same channel, the same world as Dallas. Because really, I think it's fair to say that without the lead-in, without Dukes as a lead-in, Dallas would not have been what it was. Dallas might not have even lasted. That was a nighttime soap, and you had to really be a fan of that sort of programming. And Dallas certainly was an amazing show and did incredibly well. But it was not doing all that well until it found the right lead-in. Okay, hopefully that helps explain a little bit about the world of television when there were 3 networks. And God, I loved it when there were 3 networks. What a great world to have grown up in. Little aside of that, the folks that directed Dukes of Hazzard, Holly Morris, Billy Asher, so many folks, Harry Harris. They were the folks who directed television when it first came around. These are folks who went from radio to television. So in many regards, the folks that directed Dukes, if they were 50 when they were directing Dukes, which most of them were, or 60 or 70, you could pretty much say that they invented how to shoot television, because they were there when it went from radio, when Gunsmoke went from radio to television, when Father Knows Best went from radio to television, when My Favorite Husband with Lucille Ball went from radio, was renamed, and went to television in a little show called I Love Lucy. When Dragnet with Jack Webb went from radio to television, the folks that directed radio then directed television. Also, those folks were film directors as well. So I had the great pleasure of working with the folks who not only were a very integral part of the process of making a television show, but in many regards, they invented how to do it. There you go. You all take care. I look forward to more questions. Thanks for asking. Thanks for being interested. I think that's fun. I have to take these off so I can see where the button is. Yes, that's the Pacific Ocean back there. It sure is. Getting a little tan today. Bye.